This is The Red Lens.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Cris Von Erik, and this is The Red Lens. And yes, it's Friday, I know, but there's a good reason why I'm on Friday. It is a special night, a special program for actually a special guest to boot. I have interviewed a wide variety of people, as everybody knows out there. I rarely get a chance to talk to and bring on what I consider friends of the community. And tonight, I definitely have one of those with me. It's time we put him under the red lens for a little while. We'll be taking it easy with him, little kid gloves. But I want to welcome Rob from Rob Says to the program. How are you tonight, my man?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Chris. And yes, guys, everyone out there, a very special guest straight off the short bus. So yeah, I've that's all I can say. That's what I started thinking is I am on the special bus. That's where I'm from. Yes.
And a lot of times I don't get to play a lot of the sounds that I usually like to, but with Rob, I get to play stuff like this. All right.
Love it.
Now, for those people that don't know you, describe your channel and how it differs from other ones out there.
Oh, God. Okay. That's actually a really good question. How do I differ from all the other dudes running their mouths? Well, number one, I'm 48 years old, so I'm a little bit older in the group compared to some of the younger cats. And I kind of call my stuff, for lack of a better word, it's mostly introspective. I'm not the guy to follow for like good advice. I'm a life lesson is what I am. And so if I think of things and I do things and I think it's a pretty good idea that it's like, hey, that sounds good. It's probably in your best interest to do the opposite of what I'm thinking of doing. And so I'm kind of the warning in a way is how I look at it, more jokingly, but it's kind of true. Some of the lessons I've learned, I really had to do it the hard way. And so I kind of look at it as I'm kind of one of these guys of, okay, you did all of that. You unplugged, you got your shit figured out. Now what are you going to do? And so I kind of call it like life after the red pill. I'm choosing to live my life on my terms, basically. And a lot of times it goes against contemporary wisdom. It goes against with what a lot of people would say. And I don't care. I'll rant about coworkers and jobs and stupid things that I see on Twitter and whatnot, guys acting like morons. And it's like, oh, God, these poor young guys trying to figure out a direction and they're hearing from the tism, a little spot of the tism going on out there. And I want to be, I'm that guy that in a lot of ways, I'm a normal dude. I had to set myself on fire, not literally, but metaphorically, figuratively. I had to burn in order to realize, yeah, don't do that. Stop that. And it's just, I don't know. It's me trying to tell, especially some of the younger guys, like, even though I know a lot of them aren't going to listen, there's a meme, and I'm sure you've seen it around, Chris, that says something along the lines of, what would you tell your younger self? Knowing what you know now at your age, whatever that age is for you, for me, for anyone who reads that little meme, what would you tell your younger self? And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, what would I tell my younger self? I wouldn't tell him a damn thing. Why? Because he wouldn't listen anyway. 25-year-old me had all the answers. He had it all figured out. He knew everything. And so if I was to try, get into some weird time space continuum machine and go back and visit my younger self, younger me would not listen to older me. He'd be like, get the hell out of here, you old man. I got it figured out. I know what I'm doing. And so I wouldn't waste my time talking to younger me. I had to burn. I had to figure it out and realize, yeah, I didn't have all the answers. And I don't even now. I don't always have the answers, but I trust that unless what I do actually ends up literally killing me, and if it does, all my problems are over anyway. So unless it actually kills me, I'm probably going to be okay. And I decide that's kind of how I chronicle things, I guess, is kind of, hey, here's here's some things I learned about myself based on this incident or that incident. Or here's what I learned from, talking to some of my coworkers at my job, and watching them make some of the same mistakes I've made when I was younger. And it's like, oh yeah, I remember doing that. I know where that's going. It's like that light you see down there, that's not heaven. That's a freight train. Get off the track.
That's it. And that whistle isn't a lullaby either.
No, that whistle is not the trumpet of heaven calling you home. That's a freight train coming your way. Get off the track. And some guys do, and some guys, they get to get hit by the train, and it's like, well.
Yeah. Does your family or friends know the business and persona that you have online?
Yeah. My dad, he understands that I do a bunch of different podcasts, that I have my own channel. I do stuff like what I'm doing with you. I do stuff with Masculine Geek. I do stuff with Jack Napier, with Red Evening. Got a more recent one with Nick August and Bull Rush called Let 'Em Burn. So my dad knows I'm on the internet, but for him to fully comprehend it, he doesn't really fully comprehend it. All he knows is that for me to try to explain what is a podcast or a video cast to him, I have to kind of say, it's like being on a radio show, Dad. Or it's kind of like being in an interview room with the television, like what the news does, except everybody's in their own separate room, but they're all talking at the same time and they're all on the same screen. The full magnitude of what I do. Yeah, he's way beyond that. He's like, whatever.
Now he's over there telling everybody, oh, my son's on the news.
I could actually see him saying that, but as far as I know, my dad has never actually seen my show, just because he's about as computer illiterate as you can get. And I think it's even like a point of contention for him. Like he does not want to get better at it. He's like, no, I refuse. I'm going to play my solitaire. I'm going to buy my car parts, and that's about it.
Now, speaking of one of the your many things that you do, I really like the Salt Lake sit down that you do. Now, that seems to be much more of a straightforward, serious, on topic kind of kind of segment. What made you think of doing that?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up.
To me, it seems very different.
Well, what it started out is okay, we got to go back in time about a year, maybe a little more than a year, about a year and a half. In 2015, I got divorced. Okay. I decided I don't want to do this anymore. I was looking at 3 options when I decided to get divorced. One option was keep doing what you're doing. And that was like, no, this is a slow death. I can't do this. Option number 2 was get divorced. Option number 3 was eat a shotgun round. That's where I was at. Well, obviously I chose divorce. I decided, you know what? No, if that means I'm going to be single and alone forever, I am fine. I would rather do that than continue doing what I was doing. Got right back into dating, all of that. Started, and I'd already found Rollo, and I don't even remember exactly how I found, The Rational Male, but I did. And so I'd been reading that and realizing it was very gratifying to realize, dude, you're not crazy. I started kind of applying different things like spinning plates and whatnot, got dating again. And then in 2016, I decided, you know what? I want to throw my 2 cents into what we call the manosphere. I want to contribute somehow. And at that time, my blog was pretty anonymous. I didn't have a picture of myself. I wasn't using my name. And I kind of was very sporadic in writing posts because I didn't really know what I wanted to say or what I wanted to do. 2018, that's the year I decided, you know what, I'm going to get serious about this. I still don't know exactly what I want to say, but I know I need to get serious about it, which meant for me, okay, I need to be consistent. I need to do something, instead of just writing a post whenever I feel like it, I need to put something out on a fairly consistent basis. And I finally figured out, for me, that means I do 2 blog posts a week. And that may mean that I am writing them literally the day before they go live. Sometimes I get extra creative and I'll write 3 or 4 in a row, and then I schedule them to go out on certain days. And then I decided, well, now I need to do YouTube because I like YouTube. I like what YouTube has to offer. I'll admit it. I like the sound of my own voice. And so whether other people do or not, I do. And so, it was okay. Kind of the same recipe. It's like, okay, put a video out, like 1 video a week. And this was before I started live streaming. But I had started doing videos, and mostly it was me kind of reading some of my blog posts that had seemed to kind of take off a little bit. Me, for instance, when I really want to learn something, I like to read about it. And ideally, I want to hold the book in my hands. Some people, that doesn't really work for them. They work better listening to it, hearing it. Some people want to see it, very hands-on, whether they're actually physically touching whatever, or they see it like on a YouTube video, which that would be probably my second system, I guess, of learning is, hey, I want to watch it go down. I'll do my writing, I'll do my video, and then I do an audio as well. That way, everybody kind of has their preferred medium, whatever it may be. Well, then in September of 2018, 2 major events happened within 2 weeks of each other for me. At the beginning of September, I had an LTR going on at that time, that the girl and I that were together, she was someone I had met shortly after I got divorced. And I had spun plates for about a year. She was one of those plates, I guess you could say. And then we decided to take it pretty serious. And so we did the whole monogamy thing. I even moved her in. And there are things, that in hindsight, it's like, you kind of backslid here. You kind of slipped up there. And so, unplugging per se isn't a static state. It's something you always kind of you're always having to be a little vigilant about. She decided to leave. She decided, I don't want to do this anymore. And I hadn't been paying attention. That's part of how I knew I'd backslid, because it caught me by surprise. Well, 2 weeks after she decided to leave, my mother died. And so I had 2 kind of big things happen back to back. I was in a very dark place for a few months dealing with the loss of both. The relationship and also, a death of a parent. Going to the Salt Lake sit down idea. Around Christmas, I had decided I was kind of flirting around with Periscope. And basically I would kind of just talk to people. That's how I met. Well, I'd met him on Twitter, but interacting with him, that's when I started interacting with a guy by the name of Steven Story. We were interacting on Periscope, and we were talking about like cigars, and I was telling guys, little life lessons that I learned at the family Christmas party, like, hey guys, take care of your health, because I'm listening to all my aunts and uncles. They're in their 70s and some even into their early 80s. And it's like, and they all have, all chronic illnesses and shit going on. And it's like, well, yeah, it's because you guys haven't been taking care of yourselves. I kind of wanted to put something together where it was very low pressure. I could kind of talk about anything. And I kind of envisioned it like sitting down at a campfire. I might have 3 or 4 ideas in my head that I'll talk about, but then I would kind of leave it open to whatever, if the other people wanted to chat about whatever, they could ask questions. It didn't matter. That's when it kind of started evolving to what it's kind of become today. I decided, I wanted a background, because obviously I do a green screen for everything, because I don't like the look of my back wall. I don't like the look of the shit that's behind me. And so, hey, a green screen and I can have whatever I want, just like I've got, this nifty red lens logo going on right now. So I wanted to do a couple of photos that I took, because I kind of wanted a newsroom feel. Like, okay, we're in a newsroom and there's the ticker going on, just like there's a ticker going on right now. Guys, donate Cash App. The money sign Cris Von Erik. Hit the like button while you're at it, guys. And if you haven't subscribed to Chris's channel, come on. Share this with someone you know that would benefit from it. Do all that stuff, because guess what? Do a solid for Cris. Just hit the like button. It's real easy. Anyway, so the Salt Lake sit down kind of became my way of, because I like to interact with people. I like kind of like what we're doing right now. And I realized, because that's where I started figuring out, who am I in relation to why am I doing everything I'm doing? Because I'm not Rollo Tomasi. I'm not Donovan Sharp. I'm not Ryan Stone. I'm not Rich Cooper. I'm not those guys. Those guys are those guys. If you want to learn from the greats, go sit down with those guys. That's why they're there. But what can I do? Well, I like to talk shit. I like to drink beer. I like to entertain, is pretty much my major thing. I like to entertain people. And so I figured, I might throw a few little, fun nuggets of wisdom that I've learned over the years, stuff that, hey, Rollo talked about this, and you know what? I found, yeah, that's applicable, and here's what I learned. I liken my spot in what we call the manosphere. To me, the manosphere is like a big bar. And I'm sitting at one table, and I got a couple of real good buds sitting around with me, and we're drinking beer and we're talking shit. And every now and then some chicks walk by, and we kind of flirt with them and give them grief. And then there's some other dudes, and they're hanging out at their tables. And every now and then we kind of talk to each other across the tables. Every now and then somebody talks shit and throws a little shade, and some people get up and leave because, they're all huffy that way. But to me, I treat this whole thing kind of like I'm hanging out at the bar. It became a lot more enjoyable for me. And that's where I thought, I kind of want the Salt Lake sit down. While it can be serious, there's no doubt. There's definitely times, depending on what I'm doing, where I wouldn't call it structured, because I don't do well with structure. I'm very fly by the pants. There's a lot of different guys that I've talked to over the last few years. Some are very, what I call, interviewers. That's what they do. They do interviews, and they do a great job at it, but they're very structured. They'll be like, hey, Rob, I want you on my show. I'm going to email you a list of questions so that you know what I'm going to ask you ahead of time, so that you can answer it to the best of your ability. Or if you have a problem with the question, let me know. And I want you to send me back some questions you would like to ask me. Now, I can do that for other people. I'm very adaptable, very flexible that way, that if you, Chris, had been like, dude, I've got this 20 list questionnaire that, here you go, Rob, this is what we're going to talk about, and we kind of need to stay on track and whatever, I would have been like, hey, not a problem. I can do that, because this is your show. And however you want to do your show, then I want to do the best I can for your show. But when it comes to my show, I'm not an interviewer. I'm a conversationalist. I like to shit talk. And when we have conversations, they don't always stay on topic. You go off and chase squirrels, and you go off into left field, and you're talking about that time that you had an ingrown toenail, and and then there's this dude named Bacon who was in the chat, and he's talking about, cutting people up with machetes and whatnot. And you're like, machete? And he's cracking jokes. Everybody has their own style. My style is very free flowing. I like to consider it more like that. You and I, we're buds. We're good friends. We're sitting at the bar right now, especially with summer, especially with me working a 9-to-5 job and doing all the things I do and trying to have a social life on top. You only have so many hours in the day. And for me, it's like, well, I gotta, there's gotta be some compromise. There's going to have to be some give and take in all of this. And so that's when, like in the summer, the Salt Lake sit down kind of gets put on the back burner. Summer starts drawing down, it's getting cold. It's, especially in winter, then I tend to bring it back and do it fairly consistently. And for now, I'm choosing Sundays at about like 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time.
What are 3 things that people might be shocked to know about you?
Shocked. Well,
it could be something you're into. It could be a hobby you have, or maybe a place you visited.
Okay, well, let me think for a second here. Shocked, because the $1 Million Chat guys, the guys that I deal with, that follow me around to different shows and whatnot, they've probably heard about everything I've done. And so none of them guys would really be shocked. So I have to kind of think of the average viewer, somebody that, maybe they follow you, but they've never heard of me. And they're like, who the hell's this asshole? Okay, something that might actually shock some guys, not my guys, but just some guys. I'm 5'4". Okay, so I'm a short dude. A lot of people assume that I'm much taller than that. Even guys that have met me in real life, they're like, dude, you're taller than 5'4". And it's like, yeah, maybe because of the way I carry myself, but the reality is, you put a tape measure up against me, I am 5'4", and I have been since I was probably like 14, and I'm currently 48. I don't know if it would be a shock, but because people that know me would be like, yeah, I could see you actually doing that. But when I was 16, I studied theater, and we had to do a play that was part of our grade. And it was not in front of the student body so much as it was in front of the community. So the whole entire town I lived in, if they chose to show up, they were invited to come out and watch this play. I was the main male character, but I only had about 5 lines throughout the entirety of the play. However, the play, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but what it was, and the play itself was blue pill as hell. A guy who was trying to get his girl back, and she owned like this random like pawn shop that just had a bunch of random shit. And he's trying to win her back, and she basically says, well, I'll come back basically if everyone who walks through the door today gets whatever it is they're looking for. I'll consider it, a sign from God or whatever, and I'll take you back. So it is cringe, but the fun thing was the play. Everything that people wanted, she actually didn't have, but I did, and it usually meant clothing. So throughout the entirety of this skit, I'm stripping, and by the time we get to the very end, where yep, I got the girl, I got the girl. She came back because everybody got what they wanted. I went from like, coat, pants, shoes, shirts, socks, underwear. I went from everything fully clothed because it was set up to imitate winter. So I had a big long coat on and a scarf and a big beanie and all that shit. By the time I came out from behind the little partition thing that I was throwing things over, all I had left was my shoes, my socks, and my underwear, and I was wearing pink and purple polka dotted boxers. And I had to kiss this girl on stage while I was literally in nothing but my underwear in front of about 300 people when I was in college. So from 1990 to 1994, I was up at one of the universities here in Utah. It's called Weber State University. I was a disc jockey, a DJ on the local campus radio station. And they were the first station in Utah at that time that actually exclusively played hip hop. Other stations hadn't even started. And me, I'm this metalhead. I'm the guy that listened to Metallica and Megadeth, Slayer, Dio, Iron Maiden, all that. And it's like, and you want me to play hip hop? Really? But the fun thing was, after 4 years of doing that, because I enjoyed being on the radio, it's kind of like this, only minus the camera. But doing that, I did learn an appreciation for a lot of like R&B, hip hop, soul music. I was able to not only in some cases tolerate it, but I was actually able to enjoy it.
You gave 2 prime examples of being extroverted. You were on the stage and you were a disc jockey. So, and there you go. I mean, the seeds for what you're doing now.
Yeah, it wasn't a big jump. It really wasn't. And even back in high school, in addition to doing the theater stuff, I also was playing guitar and had a band back then too. Oh. And so being kind of in the spotlight, being in front of groups of people and they're sitting around watching you act like a total fool, I got used to that from a young age. This setup, my studio, for lack of better words, is huge. It takes up a huge chunk of real estate in my house. And it's right in the middle of the living room. That it's like, okay, I've got, the couch is still, not obstructed, that if I want to sit on the couch and watch television, watch a movie or something, I can do that. And the studio's not in the way. I don't have to move anything around. But you cannot miss my studio. It's the elephant in the room. So of course, if I invite women over, first thing they do, if they've never been here, they walk in and they see this fucking studio and they're like, wow, what is this? I'm like, that's my studio. And usually they're like, oh, so you're a photographer? And yes, I am actually. I'm not a professional photographer. I am an amateur photographer, but yes, I am. I take photos as well. There is artwork hanging on my walls that are my prints that I took of different people, different things. But that's something I do very sporadically. But I mean, I guess I could, kind of lie or be like, yeah, that's for my photography. Yeah. But I'm not ashamed of what I do. I'm not going to apologize for what I'm about. And so while I don't necessarily volunteer details, I will tell them, I am involved in multiple podcasts. So, and these women are all younger women. These are women anywhere from 10 to 20 years younger than me. They understand, that I'm like, basically, yeah, girls, I'm a YouTuber, for lack of better words. And then they kind of get a little excited, because they're like, really, what do you do?
Then they find out what you talk about and they're like, oh my God.
Well, and sometimes, sometimes they, some of the older women get a little miffed. They tend to get a little offended because they're like, because some of them they will find me on the internet.
You said it before that you're, the age that you are, so you're a seasoned guy.
Mm-hmm.
What should young guys be focusing on in their lives from your vantage point of having been there? And
yeah, okay. Well, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this, I believe, where the meme about what would you tell your younger self? And honestly, I wouldn't tell him anything because he's not going to listen anyway. But that being said, that I know these young guys, yeah, most of them, probably 95% aren't going to listen because they already got all the answers. But for that 5% that actually are like, wow, okay, yeah, this dude's been around a minute. What would he say to me that you could take away and use? Okay, guys, here it is. There's two ways to look at life. Number one, nobody gives a shit. Number two, nobody gives a shit. Which one do you want? Which one do you choose? Because the truth is, nobody cares. And that's not nihilism and despair, unless you want to do the nobody gives a shit, which I did that for a while. Okay. We've all done it, or we're doing it, or you're going to do it. Okay. Truth is, nobody gives a shit. No one's going to care in 5 years, or let alone, 100 years or whatever. No one's going to care. So whatever you're doing, if you have anxiety about the job, or you have anxiety about approaching a girl because you think the entire world is watching you, guess what? Nobody's watching you. They don't care. Everybody's caught up in their own drama. Everybody is the center of their own spotlight. Okay. Nobody's watching you. So you might as well do whatever it is you want to do. Number two would be, this is kind of ironic since I'm giving advice here, but stop listening to other dudes. Stop asking them to tell you what to do. You have to decide how you want to live your life, which means you don't know until you try things out. And that means you're going to fuck up. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail. And that's okay, because nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. You have to decide what works for you and realize that most of your friends, most of your family, most of the people around you are probably not going to be on board with whatever it is you want to do, because you're going to go against the norm. You're going to go against the grain. It's kind of like when I decided I wanted to date much younger women. I've always had an interest in younger women because why not? They're younger, hotter, tighter. But I also had a limited mindset at one point where I thought, yeah, I can't get that kind of woman, until I started noticing guys that were my age getting younger women. And these guys didn't have status. They didn't have looks. They didn't have money. So all the usual suspects that you would say, oh, well, he must have, he must be a millionaire, or he must, he's Chad Thundercock. He's 7 feet tall, or, he's the CEO of a company, or he's the owner of a bar or a nightclub. They're actually the exception that I've encountered in my life. Most of the guys, they're regular dudes, and some of them don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. And yet they can get younger women. Why? Because for them, it's possible. It's like, why wouldn't I? Why? They're no different than older women. They're just funner and they look better. when I realized that guys could do that and not have two nickels to rub together, and they weren't all that great looking, and they weren't all that tall, and they really didn't have a lot of shit going on for them, I was able to drop the copes, the excuses, the bullshit, and just be like, you know what? I need to try that. And so when I met one that was 20 years younger than me, I was 42. It was right after I got divorced. I'm 42. She was 22. And I had to know. It's like I have to know what it's like to kiss this woman. I have to know, no matter what she does, what she says, I don't care. I have to know. And I envisioned all these bad things. You know, she's going to slap me. She's going to push me away and go, whoa, 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 you got the wrong idea. I even envisioned that she would like assault me, call the police, file rape charges, you name it. All those nightmare scenarios that we think about. Well, I still had to know. I didn't care. It was like, I have to know. Not knowing would have killed me. So we're talking, and I was like, I stopped her in mid-sentence. I'm like, come here. And she's like, what? I'm like, I have to know something. So she walks over to me, and I just put my arm around her, and I kissed her. And she kissed me back. And that's when I realized, oh, shit, she's into it. And I'm nobody. I'm just a dude. She said, Rob, you have balls. She's like, that's what drew me to you. You have like, you're like fearless, even though I'm not fearless. On the inside, I'm just as nervous and insecure and scared as anyone else. I just hide it better and do it anyway. Because what's the worst that can happen? Because nobody gives a shit. So fuck it.
And I think that point of view that comes over time.
It does. Well, it does for the fact that I did everything the way I was told to do it. Mom and dad said, you need to do this. You know, you need to graduate high school, and then you need to go to college and get a degree. Okay, so I did that. You know, it didn't matter what the degree was in, but I needed to get a degree. So I did that. Well, now what, mom and dad? Well, now you need to save up and get a house. Okay, so I did that. I bought my place that I live in. Okay, so now what, mom and dad? I mean, it's a cliche. It's right out of Fight Club. I don't know, get married. And so that's what I did, you know, but I didn't, you know, back then I was a serial monogamist. I dated one woman at a time, and I gave up my commitment right off the bat because I was thirsty. I was in a scarcity mindset, and I didn't think I could do better because I was a short dude, and because I was a bald dude, and because I was an older dude. I took what I could get, and I ended up almost eating a bullet over it all. Okay. That's what doing what everyone else told me to do. That here's the answer to your question, son. When I did it their way, I almost killed myself. And that's when I thought, you know what? I did it everyone else's way. I did what the self-help books said. I did what mom and dad said. I did what my friends said. I did what the ex-wife said. I did everything everyone else's way. And where did it get me? To the verge of suicide. That's where it got me. That's how fucking miserable I was. And so that's when I decided, well, I did it everyone else's way. And here's where it got me. It got me to wanting to end my own life. That I am not just looking down the barrel of a handgun. I'm looking down the barrel of a shotgun. Because if I'm doing it, man, I'm going big. I don't want to survive this. I don't want there to, you know, I don't want to be a vegetable or have brain damage. I'm going to plaster my head into red goo. That there's no coming back. If I'm going all the way, man, I'm making sure it's one and done. But I went from that to, oh, wow, you know, nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. Not really. And even the ones that do, the people that throw shade at you, fuck them. Who are they? They're nobody too. You know, most of the judgment I got for dating younger women was unironically from women my age. And well, gee, I wonder why, because, you know, I'm dating someone young enough to be my daughter, and she looks better than you, and you don't stand a chance against that, you know, but why not? And younger women, you know, women my age, they're too old for me in general. Not in all cases, but in general, women my age are too old for me. And maybe that makes me immature. I don't care. I'm happy. I enjoy my life. I'm living my life on my terms. And so people can rant and rail and rave and carry on. And I don't care. It's like, dude, you're not me. And what I do may or may not work for you. I'm not guaranteeing results here. I'm not selling you a course. Okay. I don't have a book on sale. I'm not going to promise you the moon. I don't have a prescription here for you. All I know is I did it the way everyone else told me to do it, and it almost cost me my life. And so then I decided, you know what? Society has taught me that I need to ask everyone else's opinion except for the one guy's whose opinion was the only one that mattered, and that was me. And so now I don't bother with other people in general. I mean, I'll throw it out there just to kind of gauge the temperature of the water. Am I jumping into an ice cold lake, or am I going to jump into something kind of warm, you know? But I just do it as more as just an idea, so I don't get a full system shock, but otherwise I'm still jumping in. But I only ask myself. That's the only opinion that matters, is my own. And so when I stopped giving a fuck about what other people thought, and I was just like, I'm going to do what I want to do because that's what works for me. And yeah, you make mistakes, you fuck up, you go, oh yeah, that didn't really work out, you know? So yeah, I'm not going to do that again. All right. So, but there's no regret. You just learn. But that's where I decided. And so for the younger guys, I guess I want to take the suspense out for you. You don't have to wait till you're 42 to get there. You don't have to wait till you're 42 and you're ready to eat a shotgun shell. You can change that right now. It's not going to be easy trying to decondition yourself and reprogram yourself, because you've been at the knee of not only your mom and society, but you know, you've had this since you were a kid. Trust me, I know. So have I. Okay. You've just had it in some ways worse, but in other ways, you haven't had it as long as I did, but I broke through it. And all I can say is you don't have to get to the point where you're in a marriage that you hate. You're in a job that is meh. And your life is basically literally that definition of quiet desperation. You don't have to do that. You don't have to wait till you're in your 40s and have a quote unquote midlife crisis. You can change it now, but be prepared to catch flack. Be prepared for people to say what you're doing is wrong. Be prepared to be judged. That it's like, I don't care if you judge me. I'm happy. I'm doing my thing, because you're going to get mom, dad, and everyone else throwing their 2 cents in because you're not doing it their way. And that's the key. They're only saying shit because you're not doing it their way, because somehow their way is the right way. It isn't. Your way is the right way. Okay. It may not be my way you could tell me, hey, Rob, I'm doing this and that. And I'm like, whoa, all right. Not something I would do, but you know what? If it works for you, more power to you. Just like I do shit that you could go, whoa, yeah, I'm not going to do that. That's fine. No one said you had to do it my way. In fact, don't, other than yours is the only opinion that matters. That's it.
And some of those detractors would want to actually have the opportunity to do it the way that you're doing.
Absolutely.
So,
they're just too scared to do it.
Remember that too.
Yeah, they're just too scared to do it is usually what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, you know, that's one of the big things I've learned, that, you know, kind of to fluff Rollo here a little bit, but he said something along the lines of, you hold the keys to your own freedom, but you're too scared shitless to use them. And it's true, because, you know, I mean, it took me getting to the point of wanting to end my life, that was a viable option. It was actually a preferred option than to continue going on the way I was going. And so that was because I was too scared shitless, because you want to do the right thing. You want to be, you know, be the plow horse guy. You want to be that guy that I gave my word. I took vows, you know, whatever it is. But are they in your best interest? That's the part you have to answer for yourself. Is this in my interest? Because more often than not, the shit people are going to tell you to do, it's not in your interest. It's in someone else's interest. And that doesn't mean that they're, you know, plotting nefariously against you. Not necessarily. I'm happy. I'm not saying my life is ideal, the pinnacle peak of life, but I'm happy with my life. I'm happy with what I've accomplished. I'm happy with what I'm doing. And if I die tomorrow in a motorcycle accident, then I lived my life on my terms and I have no regrets.
What type of content do you enjoy, like, doing when you're doing all the various different, like, shows and segments that you do? What is the one that you get into the most?
Any one of them that I can drink.
That's
So like right now, this is a good one. No, in all seriousness, I guess I like the intergender dynamic stuff, dating, sex, seduction, talking about women. Those are probably my favorite. All women are like that. Okay. Whether they are 15 or they're 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, 70. They're all like that. And I'm not bitching. I'm not bitter. It's just how it is. So act accordingly. You know, keep that shit in mind. Why do they do the shit they do? Because they're teenagers. Act accordingly. Don't expect a lot from them, guys. Don't expect them to turn into men because they're not going to. I have some segments on my channel that I call 2 minutes. I was trying some stuff out because I was learning how to video edit. So I had to, you know, play with all the bells and whistles and whatnot. But they're 2-minute segments. They're short, which was intentional. My little hot take about like saving the West or semen retention, you know, or monk mode or all this stupid shit that you see on Twitter. These guys just, it's like, you guys, women, you know, we give women shit because, you know, they're illogical. They use emotion first, and then they might maybe sometimes go to logic, and we give them grief. You know, we as guys, as a collective whole, we give them fucking grief. And yet I'm looking at that going, at least that makes sense. I can look at it and go, well, that's because that's women. Then I look at some guys and it's like, you guys just make shit up. You know, there's no rhyme or reason or logic here. You have pseudo logic, you got pseudoscience and a bunch of other nonsense, but literally you were sitting around on your couch and you were clipping your toenails or you were picking and eating the crap from your toenails. And you just pulled this shit right out of your ass and decided, you know what? I'm a guru and I'm going to tell people about semen retention. And the crazy thing is not only did your fucking ass come up with that and say it, and you're, at least, I don't know if it was a joke when it started that some guys like, hey, let's see if anyone buys this. But it's the fact motherfuckers did. That it's like all these other guys, oh yeah, don't jerk off and you can't come. And it's like, oh my God, really, guys? Fucking really? Orgasms are the meaning of life, guys. Jesus.
Since you brought it up, I'm just going to go in on it too. There is no, okay. I was joking when I said I was 25. I've lived a life too. There is no way, okay, and no time that ever saving your stuff up for a week to a month makes you any more apt to want to go out and talk to a beautiful girl. I see beautiful girls at my regular job, like hundreds of them a day. Okay. And that, you know, me wanting to talk to them would not change whether I had fun the night before or not.
Right. Yeah. So, it's just a cope. That's all it is. It's just,
I don't even know what it is. I don't even know the machination of where it fits into everything. And that's why I joke about it online all the time. You know, I put the thing out there with the guys bulging with their bulging eye faces, you know, now, because it's just ridiculous.
But there is a case to be said for having certain creature comforts. I like my air conditioning, my central air. So it's nice and cool in the summer and it's nice and warm in the winter. There's creature comforts in having a full size to a queen size bed, because bitches, when they sleep over, tend to want to either suck all the heat out of you and they're blocks of ice, or they are little heat machines themselves and you're dying from sweat. And when you're trying to sleep in a twin size bed, you're sleeping ass to ass or shoulder to shoulder, cheek to cheek. And that's fucking ridiculous. I remember doing that when I was 12, like Red. And there's no fucking way I would do it now. No way. It's like, no, I need a full size or bigger, man. You need to move your ass over. You know what? Yeah, dude, there's something to be said for sex on a motorcycle, but you got
you ride.
I've got 2 motorcycles, right? And there's something to be said for that. Again, for the novelty of it. There's something to be said about all kinds of places. What about out in the woods and in a cactus field? Sure, man. Some chicks dig fucking thorns in their ass, man, and that's okay. But would I do it regularly? No, because I like my creature comforts. I like my central air. I like my bed. It's the firmness that I like. The room temperature is exactly the way I like it. And girls, if they decide to sleep over, they're not, I can push them away if they're either too cold or too hot. And then I get to sleep, because sleep is a big thing. That's one thing I'll go with the health Twitter guru guys. Get enough sleep, guys. For real. That's a real thing. I can't argue with them. I can't make fun of those guys, because that's legit. And so I like my sleep. And so either the girls need to go the fuck home, or they need to, you need to go over there. We did the cuddle thing. We did the fuck in the bed thing. We did the fuck on the floor thing. We did the fuck on the couch thing. Now you need to go shut up and go to sleep, and you need to sleep over there, so that I'm not dying of heat or feeling like I'm in my freezer. Okay. But I'm an old crotchety dude that way.
And over there is on the couch.
Sometimes. Yeah. So if they snore, dude, if they snore, that is like, you need to go home.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I've had women fucking wake me up out of a dead sleep because they're snoring. And I'm like, hey, wake up. Oh, what? You're snoring. Yeah, I do that.
Me and you are like this with that. Because I'm like when I get to sleep, I'm asleep. But I'm a very light sleeper before that. So if I'm with a chick and she snores and I didn't get to bed yet.
Oh, yeah. You're not getting to bed. Yeah.
Forget it.
Yep. No, I've sent women home. I've been like, you need to go, no offense, but you need to go. Because, yeah, I'm a light sleeper as well. And it's like, if that shit wakes me up, I'm not getting back to sleep. And I need my sleep. I value my sleep because I get so little of it.
All right. My last question to you for the night is, where is Rob? And Rob says in 10 years, are you, another online venture? Maybe you do write a book in reflection.
My memoirs. That is actually
life on a bike,
Yeah, that is actually a good question, Chris. 10 years. So I will be 58 by that point. If I'm not dead, because that's always a possibility. Not that I'm planning on it. Not that I'm thinking that, yeah, it's going to happen. Not suicide anyway. Let's put it that way. It is one of those, Rob didn't kill himself, but I do risky behaviors. I invite strange women over without much notice. I ride motorcycles. I drink. I smoke cigars. I take a lot of risks. I've both the occupations I've had in the past and even my present job, there's occupational hazards with those jobs that if I'm not paying attention, it could cost me my life in the blink of an eye. And so the likely, the reality that, hey, in 10 years I could be dead. It's a real possibility. It's a totally real possibility. So, but barring that I'm not dead, what am I going to be doing in 10 years? Well, I'll probably still be riding motorcycles because that's a thing. I'll be honest. I hope I'm not still handing out quote unquote red pill wisdom, because if I'm still doing this in 10 years, then I have failed. I failed you, the viewers, and I failed myself. This is not, I don't want to be 70 and telling young guys, go out and approach girls, sonny. No, I want to move on to other shit. But what that other shit is, I really don't know for sure yet. But if I'm still, hashing on you should have read Rollo Tomasi when you were younger, you dumb son of a bitch. If I'm doing that in 10 years, then I have failed, because it's like, clearly you didn't listen back then and you're not listening now. So do I want to be, hashing up red pill in 10 years? Honestly, I hope not. I hope I've moved on to something else, whether it's, motorcycle videos, or I'm doing like some of the gurus where, hey, look at me with my 20-something-year-olds on my yacht. It's just one of them things that I guess we'll find out. Maybe I will be writing my memoirs. Maybe it is going to be, my years of degeneracy, me, not saving the West and enjoying the decline instead.
And I, for one, am pulling for the fact that you are around in 10 years. And you said something before where you said, you're not like one of the great ones. You're not great. Well, I think greatness is speculative, and it's also in the eye of the beholder.
That I'll agree with you on that. Yeah.
So I for one think that you have a lot to contribute to the corner where we hang out in and we dwell. And I think you have a lot to offer in life experience in general. Robsays.net, your YouTube channel. I think a lot of guys, young, definitely if they, like you said, want to save a lot of time and a lot of heartache, should go and seek your stuff out because I think it is important. And I want to see you do your collaborations because I think every show you're on and every collaboration you do, whatever platform it is, I think you add something to it because there's very few people in this realm that I think contribute in a real way, and that's why I like to have them on. And you're one of those guys.
Well, thank you, Chris. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. The last thing I guess I'll say is kind of my parting words. That kind of what do I try to do? Going back to kind of the original question of what are you about? I strive for me to be as authentically me as I can. That what you see, what you hear here on the internet, on Chris's show, whatever videos I do, whatever other collaborations I'm involved in, that guy, that's me. That's if you meet me in real life, which that is kind of part of one of my goals as well. I want to meet guys in real life because you can't be deplatformed in real life. And so that is kind of one of my things. It's like, I plan on, hey, what am I doing in 10 years? I'm having parties with all the dudes I've met online and not virtually. We're doing it in real time. That's one of my goals. Yeah, exactly. Red Evening with Jack. Yeah. Okay. I do all of this because there's so much insincerity. There's so much LARPing and live action role playing and so much bullshit that most guys have no idea what is real, what isn't, because most of the guys out there, they're full of shit. They're not what they seem to be. There's some guys that even recently for me that I thought were one way, and now I'm finding out, that's all an act. Okay. Well, that's disappointing, and it is. And sometimes it is, it is disappointing. You get bitter, you get jaded. You're like, fuck all these guys. All they want to do is take your money until you fill your head full of garbage. And unfortunately, there's a lot of guys out there that's exactly right. Whether they're doing it intentionally because they want to take money out of your wallet, or they are doing it for backslaps and adulation. They want you to be part of their little cult, for lack of a better word. They're not necessarily who they say they are. And the only consolation I can tell anybody about that, they out themselves eventually. It might take a while. It might even take a couple of years, but they out themselves. They do reveal their colors eventually. It's just how much time did you spend hanging around them? And I'm speaking more of like online. You'll usually find out if they're the real deal or not when you meet them in person. That's the acid test for me is this guy the same guy that I see online? Is he like this in real life, or is he a completely different dude? And for me, the guy that you're listening to, the guy you're watching right now, this is who I am in real life. This is how I would talk to you if we went out and had a beer, or we went and grabbed some food, or whatever. Hey, let's go pick up some chicks. Okay, yeah, let's go do that. This is how I am. This, that you would be able to go, oh my God, dude, you're exactly like you are on the internet. It's like, well, why wouldn't I be? Why I love to entertain. I know how to act. I do have actors training, I guess, but why would I want to put on a show when my goal is I want to let guys know there are sane people, even if I do stupid shit sometimes. I'm not entirely crazy because I kind of know what I'm doing, but I like to push the envelope. I am a risk taker, but it's okay that you'll find guys, they're rare on occasion, but you'll find guys that these are the real deal. These guys are real. And that's kind of what I strive to do, is to, I guess, present that hey guys, you want to talk to someone that they're not putting on a show, come talk to me. I'll talk to you. I'm not promising you that I'm going to give you the answer to your question. I don't know. I'm not you. But I'll fucking goof on you and we'll have fun and you'll forget about your problems for 5 minutes. And if you're cool enough, we can have a beer in real life, and you'll find out, oh, dude, you're just like that on the fucking videos. It's like, yeah, I that's me. I'm not your guru. I'm just a dude talking shit on the internet, letting you know, not everybody's fucking insane. There's some that are, and there's some that, yeah, they're okay, man. They're all right. Because I've met a lot of them. And how they are, that's how they are. Yep, that's how they are. And the interactions we have online, that's how we interact in real life too. It's like, oh, you guys are fucking on each other all the time. It's like all the time. These are my buds. That's what I do. Then they do the same back. And you'd think that we're a married couple, an old married couple that hate each other and we're going to throw shoes at each other or something. But that's what we do. So that would be my thing. It's like, I just want to be as authentic. It's not, just be yourself. It's, I want to be my most authentic self, that what you do see is what you get. The surprise is that there is no surprises. That, wow, holy shit, you're actually legitimate. This is who you are. Yeah. I'm not asking you for your money. I have a job. I don't need your money. I don't want your money. I'm just here to let you know that it's okay, that you're not crazy. You don't need to go and blow your brains out. You're okay. You're going to be fine. You really are. Just stop acting like a fucking idiot. Because I like to do the tough love thing too. So I'm going to tell them, stop stepping on your dick. Stop acting like a retard. Stop doing that stupid shit you're doing online. And just chill out. Lose some weight. Approach the girls. Not all women are bad. And that you can. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that hard. Just be prepared for a lot of women to tell you no, and it's not personal. And that's it.
Oh, well, I'll say that if you are unique, you are authentic, and I think that's what I look for, and I think you're right on the money. I think that's what a lot of guys out there that watch that this kind of content, they're looking for that, and I think that's invaluable.